Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen with video 2 for the price list that will go out this Wednesday, June 4th, 9 p.m. Sydney time. If you would like to be on the playlist, please reach out shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. First things first, we've about 350 people registered their interest for the Northern Beaches Record Fair on June 29th. That is fantastic. There's been an almost complete refresh of the people who are attending. So yeah, if you would like to know more, look up Northern Beaches Record Fair on Facebook or drop me a line. This is the genre list. Now, this week I have selected a bunch of more obscure records that are going to be the types of records I'm going to put in the crates for my record fair. So what do we got? We got rap, we got new age, ambient, reggae, jazz, northern soul, all sorts. So let's get into it. I was thinking about where to start because there's a lot of records on this list that I actually really love. And there'll be some that I think will be new to you, and that's the point. But this one, most of you will be familiar with. This is Doggy Style by Snoop Dogg. 1993, Bathtub, the G-Funk intro, the classic Gin and Juice, unbelievable song. Murder Was the Case, Ain't No Fun, Jeezy and Hustlers, and then finishing off with the funky as Pump Pump, produced by Dr. Dre, of course. Executive producer Suge Knight, what a controversial figure. On Death Row Records. Now, this particular version is not on Death Row. I'm going to show you what this is in a second. From Long Beach, LA, mentored by Dr. Dre. First appeared on The Chronic with Ice Cube. Just laid back dude. I remember Melissa and I got tickets. She won a competition and we got Golden Circle, so right up close to the Live 8 concerts. I think they were the 20th anniversary of the Live Aid concerts, and Snoop Dogg was there, and what a dude. And we've seen, honestly, just unbelievable guy. This was part of a collection I bought a while back, and it is in really nice condition. It is a Brazilian first press, so it's on the Atlantic label. I've played this a few times. It sounds really, really good. And as it's a first press, it also features this, and I've got to be a little bit careful here. For those of you who know this album, I'm just going to try to remember the name of the guy who did this. It was it J. Cool or something? Anyway, this is the cartoon that came with it that was incredibly controversial. Yeah, a classic of West Coast hip hop, G-funk, syrupy, squelchy synths, lots of Parliament and funkadelic samples, lots of Bootsy Collins bass lines, but with production that's a lot more lush than Dre's production with the likes of Eminem. Genre defining, clear classic. If you don't have it, it is often on the list of the best albums of all time, let alone the best hip-hop albums of all time. The strip art, I'm pretty sure it was Joe Cool who did this. It's absolutely mad that this was made. And what I really like about it is in the list of thank yous, there's also the Golgotha Trinity Baptist Church. He actually thanks George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, and all the musicians and vocalists. Jimmy Iovine, Nate Dogg gets a thank you. The Valgrado family, whoever they are. Everybody in Long Beach City, east, west, north, and south. Anyway, very, very cool record. First presses of this album are legendarily hard to find. And so, good luck to you. But this Brazilian first press is really nice. Probably the sleeve is more VG, but the vinyl is lovely. Okay, what do you follow Doggy Style with? Well, I think you follow with one of the most underappreciated but kind of long tail albums of the 70s. And there's an interesting segue in that the band are playing here in Sydney on June 11th as part of Vivid. I think it's part of Vivid. It might not be, but I think it is. It is West Berlin's Tangerine Dream. Now, this is the gatefold, let me just double check, US first press of Rubicon. The US were really good about making sure they had paper in. There's none of the cheap PVC cancer-destroying stuff that the Aussies put into their record sleeves. Now, Rubicon was released in 75. Now, Tangerine Dream formed by Edgar Froese in late 60s, or maybe mid to late 60s. Or a celebration of everything electronic, ambient, kind of, alongside and working with the types of music by the likes of Sun Ra Temple and the Berlin School of Krautrock. And so this is a very different type of Krautrock, though. This is a very creative and sinewy electronic music. And Rubicon is by far and away my favorite Tangerine Dream album. It is one side of music and a second side of music, part one and part two. And it is so analog, mellotron, sequencers. It's really cool. And, I got to know it because I got a collection of music that had been used in TV advertising. And it was like, this album is like the unofficial soundtrack of BBC and independent filmmaking in the late 70s and the 80s in the UK. It is incredible. In fact, I was watching Stranger Things, and I am convinced that the people who did the soundtrack to Stranger Things know and love this album. There were little call-outs to Rubicon all the way through. It was recorded in a church. I watched a documentary about Tangerine Dream quite a while ago, and I can't remember exactly what happened. I think there was a mix-up. Anyway, the original tapes got erased, and they went back in and re-recorded everything in this 2-day burst of activity. And I think that it also lends it an energy which is unusual in the ambient space. Would love to hear from any Tangerine Dream fans about what their favourite Tangerine Dream record is. Yeah, Rubicon, a classic. Now, in this same sphere of kind of ambient music, the Japanese really have their own niche, their own lane. And by far the most famous, in fact, this guy is a Grammy award-winning musician, was Masanori Takahashi, who operated under the name Kitaro for decades. There's the back sleeve. Japanese composer, multi-instrumentalist, and kind of ambient / new age, provocateur. If any of you have ever seen those records with the Silk Road name and sleeve, that's him. And by the time he kind of come up through that whole period, he was signed by Geffen Records, which is kind of crazy that a record label would sign an artist like Kitaro. Is just really kind of cool. So you can see there on the Geffen label. So whilst, Geffen were signing Guns N' Roses, they're also signing Kitaro. Tenku, which I think is his most famous album, means heaven in Japanese. And again, like Tangerine Dream, is organic synth textures, very compositional, very kind of Japanese landscape. And whilst you could kind of park this in easy listening, I think Tenko is much more profound than that. And so, really, really interesting record. Give it a listen if you're into that type of thing. I remember I haven't been able to find it, but I think I have a print copy of an audiophile magazine from a while ago where Tenku was in the list of kind of audiophile records. The production quality is astonishing. And that's the segue to this next item, which is very unusual, but again, production quality off the charts. This is the quadraphonic box set of the first 4 albums by instrumentalist Mike Oldfield. Now, it's a hard cardboard box set. I'm just going to show you what it's like inside. So it's got this booklet that describes the story and the history of Mike Oldfield, from Tubular Bells, most famously, of course, used on the Exorcist soundtrack, all the way through to collaborations. So you get Tubular Bells, Hergest Ridge, Omadon, and collaborations, Omadon being my personal favourite. This quadraphonic set was properly re-recorded for the 4-channel system, but reading the reviews from those who know Mike Oldfield better than me, you do get increased depth, space, a different soundstage, and it is a really enveloping experience. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, Oldfield's sonic world is very lavish and very experimental, but also, very analog as well. And the quad mixes do differ quite substantially from the stereo version. If you've got a stereo version of Tubular Bells, for example, I think you'll find quite a lot to enjoy in this quadraphonic version. There's also a lot of weird Morse code stuff that's going on in the box and various things. I'll leave you to discover that for yourself. All right. I have here as well, I got a couple of these kind of reggae compilations that are kind of interesting. This one's called Reggae Rhythm, features the likes of UB40, the All Nighters, Ziggy Marley, the Melodians, the Paragons, Desmond Decker, the Clash, Culture Club. Just a very nice and very summery and fun reggae compilation if you are into that type of thing. I've got something here that I really like, though. I got a copy of this a while back, and I've been looking for a second copy, and it arrived only recently. This is the album Bossa Rio by the band Bossa Rio, a Brazilian ensemble led by this guy here, who is kind of like an associate of Sergio Mendes. His name is Manfredo Fest. They didn't make as many records as Sergio Mendes and his crew, and you can see here, this is the Japanese first press, but it's very summery, very urbane, nice kind of bossa nova rhythms. I think a little bit more fluid maybe than Sergio Mendes, different voices, but maybe more of a soul influence as well. And in fact, there is a cover version of Stevie Wonder's Don't You Worry About a Thing that I think is probably the highlight of the whole record. Really laid back, kind of sunset cocktail stuff. Produced by Sergio Mendes. So the linkages all the way through these Brazilian rare groove groups is really clear. And really like the sleeve. Everything about it. It definitely is that kind of late night DJ, crate digger kind of vibe. Bossa Rio. And this was, I was reading their bio, and I wonder, I think about these in the context of, modern America. The band broke up just weeks after this album's release because they were denied a US visa extension, which meant that they couldn't work together the way that they wanted to, or tour, etc. And so it fell apart. And I just wonder how many bands that's going to happen to over the next little while. Anyway, I also have this Funky by Gene Ammons. Gene Ammons has been introduced to me by David. You know who you are. A member of our club, beloved member of the club. Gene Ammons, of course, known affectionately as Jug, tenor saxophone genius, who really couldn't stop going to jail. He was in and out quite a few times, taking his kind of playful bluesy tone not quite into his private life. This record again was recorded after a stint at in an American prison, and this is steeped in groove in the same way that the previous record is a Crate Digger's Dream. So is Funky. This is really cool. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Really clean, very accessible. Yeah, fun record. Okay, I know this guy is really popular out there amongst you all. I just don't get it, but you know, what do I know? This is the third album by Stevie Ray Vaughan. This is Soul to Soul. There it is. I'm pretty sure this is an Aussie version. The vinyl's nice, the sleeve's not great. It'll be pretty cheap for those of you who are into Stevie Ray. That's the third album. I think the third album by reputation, maybe not quite as well received as Texas Flood and Can't Stand the Weather. More soulful, I think. Yeah, you guys tell me. Still continuing down the Crate Digger route, probably my favourite record on tonight's list. You can see in the top left corner it says DJ Copy. This is the Jimmy Brown organization. Emphasis on organ, Hammond organ, making its presence felt all the way through this. This is a complete one-off. I can find very little information about this incredible record. I'm just going to read you some of the things that are on the back here. It was released in an independent label called A Bet. Can you see that? On that yellow label. And from what I can figure out, A Bet is based out of Nashville, Tennessee. This is kind of funky organ cover versions of songs like Chain of Fools, Heard It Through the Grapevine, Ode to Billy Joe, Soul Man, Knock on Wood, When Something Is Wrong with My Baby. I don't know that one. My favorite is easily Funky Boogaloo, which features a truly fantastic fuzz guitar solo. It's on YouTube. Look it up. Funky Boogaloo by the Jimmy Brown organization. From what I can tell, there was a bunch of folks who in the northern soul scene of the UK who got into this record, and that's why there have been a few re-releases. But yeah, very cool. The Jimmy Brown organization. I'm going to flip once more to the 70s for the first record by the Paul Butterworth Blues Band out of Chicago. This is called Better Days. I'm pretty sure this is an Aussie first press. It's in really nice condition though. And, you know, I was pleasantly surprised by quite a few of the Butterfield Blues bands. Very Americana infused, of course, I think it's on Bearsville. That's the label. But Butterfield isn't pure blues. There's also gospel and soul, a bit of country rock in there as well. Very cool record, not very expensive, not very commercially successful, but laid back and fun, and kind of sent Butterworth back into a new sphere of his career, so worth it just for that. Very conscious I don't have too many female artists on the list this week, but I've made up for it by having a great record. This is Explosions by Betty Wright. She was just a teenager when she broke out with the hit Clean Up Woman, which I think was in early 70s. And she was an established kind of soul funk singer. Look at her backing band. By the time this came out, I think 75 or 76. This kind of ignored the trend toward disco, and so it didn't make as much of a kind of explosion as it should have done, as you know, no pun intended. It's really fun, gospel tinged, a little bit of rock and soul, very, very cool instrumentation. If you love mid-70s soul, and you all know how much I do, then Explosions by Betty Wright is a lot of fun. The producer of this record is actually quite unusual. His name's Willie Clark, and he based his production studio out of Miami. And so you don't kind of have the Mosley Shoals or the sweatiness of that scene, or the clean productions of Willie Mitchell. This is much more punchy, and I think you'll like it. All right, and I have one final album to present to you. This is I'm pretty sure this is a US first press, 1971. The paper again being a perfect clue. This is the second movement by Eddie Harris and Les McCann. Shorty Rides Again, Universal Prisoner, Set Us Free, Samia. Eddie Harris on tenor sax, Les McCann, Fender Rhodes, Cornell Dupree on electric guitar. Cornell Dupree, the amazing guitarist that backed King Curtis on his live record, one of my favorite albums of all time. Donald Duck Dean on drums, and the incredible Bernard Purdie, the funkiest drummer that ever lived, the Purdie Shuffle on drums. Really jammy kind of follow-up to Swiss Movement, which was probably Eddie McCann and Eddie Harris's and Les McCann's kind of biggest hit. I really like it. It's raw, it's experimental, it's really funky and fun. Again, a crate digger's dream. DJs have been picking bits out of this record for decades. So there you have it. From Eddie Harris all the way up to Snoop Dogg via Betty Wright, Mike Oldfield, Kitaro, and Tangerine Dream. As always with shortcuts, the route is circuitous, but the end result is joy all the same. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a comment. Just some kind of interaction. I love it. Gives me a thrill. Makes me feel like this is worth it. If you are not on the playlist or on the price list but would like to be, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Bye.